It's a cliche to say that understanding a country is complicated, but when it comes to Yemen, you might just be right. The poorest country in the Arab world has taken on huge importance over the past week, with Saudi Arabia launching a bombing campaign along with its allies, countries such as Egypt, Qatar, the UAE, Jordan, Morocco, and even Sudan. If you've been following the news, you'll be hearing about a Sunni-Shia regional conflict, Saudi Arabia battling against Iran. You'll be hearing names such as the Houthis, Saleh, Hadi. You might even be hearing about North and South Yemen and the regional divides that exist in the country itself. But what does all of this mean? What is going on in Yemen? To understand the current conflict in Yemen, we need to take a step back and look at this man, Ali Abdullah Saleh. He ruled Yemen for 33 years until he was brought down in 2011 by a youth movement that rose up in the country. He's a wily character. He kept himself in power by the only way he knew how to, being devious. Essentially, this Yemeni Machiavelli played one side off against the other, always ensuring that one man came out on top, himself. Now, men like Saleh don't let revolutions get in their way. Sure, he handed over the presidency, but he wasn't about to give up that easily. From 2012 onwards, Saleh sought to undermine the new president, Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi, who was also his old vice president, and his new government. And they didn't exactly make it too hard for him by being unbelievably incompetent. Saleh needed a bit of help though. A group that was strong enough to fight his opponents, such as the Islamist Islah Party, and also popular enough thanks to their participation in the 2011 revolution. The only problem is, he fought them 6 times between 2004 and 2010, and he killed the group's founder. Enter the Houthis. Depending on who you read, the Houthis are a Shia sect, a pro-Iranian militia, a movement that seeks social change, or a Yemeni Hezbollah. Think of the Houthis as a bit of this and a bit of that. They're predominantly Zaydi Shias, which does mean that yes, they are Shia Muslims. However, Zaydis are particularly close to Sunni Muslims, and sectarian issues haven't been a big issue in Yemen, especially over the last few decades. Now, the Houthis say they represent a downtrodden and victimised segment of society. I can't go into the ins and outs of that, but I will say one thing. The Houthis are northern tribesmen, and northern tribesmen are tough fighters. The Houthis have advanced since 2011, both on the military and political fronts. But now only one of those fronts is dominant. In September, using Saleh's help and Hadi's weakness, they entered Sana'a, and by January they were declaring that their revolution was superior to all, and that they were the new people in charge of the country. A new order was coming. Except that for the Saudis, that wasn't going to happen. A pro-Iranian militia on their southern border didn't sound too appealing. The problem now is, what next? The Houthi and Saleh alliance are continuing their advance across Yemen despite the airstrikes against them. Who can defeat them? The Yemeni military, largely controlled by Saleh, is currently being decimated by these airstrikes. Local forces such as tribes and militia who are fighting the Houthis have proven themselves to be unreliable and weak. Some of them don't even want to represent a united country and are calling for secession of the south. That leaves the option of a Saudi ground invasion, possibly aided by Egypt. Now, considering past attempts by foreign forces to enter Yemen, such as the Egyptians in the 1960s, that could be a disaster, both for Yemenis and for those foreign forces. Yemen's internal conflict has gone international, and by the end of it, the Yemen we know might not exist at all.